Welcome back. It's Kovacs Report. I think I've got a diamond book here. This book is so good. I did not realize how much I was going to like this book. I thought it was going to be one of those run-of-the-mill World War II tales, but it is so much more than that. And because of that, I think it needs more thought. So this video is going to be a little bit different. I am still going to go through it page by page, give my thoughts. So please still do read the book if you don't want it spoilt. Like the video if you like the video, and give the button that says subscribe on it an absolute punch. I'd really appreciate it. So like I said, I think this book is important because it is talking about themes that I think the world as it is right now needs to be reminded of. We need to be reminded of where we came from, some morals and some sort of re-education to make the place a lot better than it is right now. So I'm not going to get political or anything like that, but I am going to focus on some of the issues I think that Rick Remender is really trying to get across to the reader. So what is Escape all about? Well, it is a gritty war thriller set in an anthropomorphic animal world reminiscent of World War II, blending elements of Inglorious Bastards and Black Sad. So if you're familiar with those two, you'll know exactly what I mean. Now, the story is using this animal allegory to delve into the horrors of conflict, and it makes the violence and emotional toll feel much more immediate and visceral through, like I say, these beautifully painted pages. They kind of emphasize the brutality and moral ambiguity of war, and I think this was an amazing choice. It's explained why he's gone anthropomorphic later on, but we'll get to that. Now, the theme of Escape #1 largely revolves around the inescapable cycle of war's consequences, where actions driven by duty, vengeance, and survival lead to personal and ethical reckonings, which we will see through these characters. Now, the story follows Captain Milton Shaw. He's a hardened bomber pilot, and he's depicted as a dog, and his crew on board the Old Sockeye during their 28th mission against the Iranians. Now, if you've watched any World War II documentaries about the fighters in World War II, you know that 28 missions was quite rare. So this is a big deal that he's managed to survive so long. Anyway, the Iranians, they are a bat-like enemy faction analogous to a sort of fascist regime. Now, we all know who's who in this. Anyway, Milton's primary motivation is unyielding patriotism and revenge, and he rationalizes the bombing of enemy territory by dehumanizing the Iranians and viewing them as kind of complicit in atrocities and insisting that victory requires total commitment no matter the cost. Now, the mindset stems from his experiences of enemy cruelties, which has pushed him to see the war as a black and white struggle where hesitation could lead to defeat. Now, in contrast, his co-pilot Lieutenant Flynn embodies moral conflict. His why is rooted in guilt and empathy. Flynn questions the bombings ethics, arguing that many Iranian soldiers are draftees without choice, and the civilian casualties weigh heavily on his soul. Now, this is a recurring theme through the years where people talk about what happened, all those years ago. But anyway, he motivates himself through narrow escapes, but fears becoming as monstrous as the enemy, highlighting why the crew's internal debates, which they are, chatting as they're flying towards their target, why those debates are important, and they erupt. Now, the psychological strain of repeated missions forces them to confront how their actions might perpetuate the very evils they are fighting. Sometimes you fight so hard against an enemy, you become just as bad as them. Now, the crew's mission turns chaotic when they're targeted by ground-to-air missiles during this intense dogfight, leading to plane being shot down. Now, Milton awakens injured and unarmed in the ruins of the enemy city he just helped bomb, and now he is being hunted by the Iranians. Now, what I also want to point out is these panels here. Now, the narrative structure, it shifts perspectives from the bombings to terrified civilians huddling amid sort of mushroom clouds, and explains why the story feels so unflinching, because it forces readers to witness the immediate ripple effects of violence, from rationalized airstrikes to ground level devastation. Now, I honestly didn't realize just how much this book would start making me think again. Now, Escape #1 raises profound points about the nature of war, using its anthropomorphic setup to amplify empathy and critique desensitization. One central theme is the moral toll of combat. The comic questions whether winning justifies becoming ethically indistinguishable from the enemy, as seen in debates over civilian casualties as collateral damage, and it points out how war erodes the soul, with characters like Flynn illustrating the internal conflict between duty and humanity, raising the idea that blind vengeance might save lives short term, but corrupts individuals long term. Another key point is dehumanization versus compassion. By portraying both sides as animals, and he explains this in the letters page, or rather this page of sort of introduction to the comic at the end by drawing on the real world tendency for people to emphasize more with animals than humans. He feels that you are going to resonate and feel this book more, and it really does work. It was a brilliant choice. Now remember, challenges readers to feel kinship with enemies, daring them to extend compassion across the divides. This ties into broader messages about media's role in numbing us to atrocities. The comic contrasts news-like detachment with visceral, soulful depictions to highlight why we must confront war's human, or in this case, animal costs. Patriotism and survival are also scrutinised. The story raises how economic depression or desperation back home, for example, the crew members at the beginning referencing dire conditions, fuels unquestioning loyalty, and maybe unity is a better path out of the cycles of violence. Now, overall, this is echoing timeless anti-war sentiments akin to Mouse, which I think is a must-read, and it emphasises courage, not just in fighting, but in saving souls and crawling out of the fire of conflict, urging reflection on the violence we inflict and the empathy required to end it. So that's a lot, I know, but this book really does make you feel. So, just to show some more of these pages, once they are attacked, the plane is going down. He tries to save his friend and they parachute out, but they are landing in enemy territory. And what makes it more horrifying for him is that he has just bombed this area, so no one is going to be happy with him. He is going to be hunted until he is absolutely tortured to death. And here you can see the bad guys. They want to drag him by his throat. And there we are. We are left in the ruins. He's being pursued and he needs to escape. But those issues are raised in this this afterword here, let's call it. And both Daniel Acuña and Rick Remender talk about why this book is important to them, and they share some of their own personal stories. And it's a really interesting read, so don't skip it, because I usually do, but this time I couldn't help but read it because the book just had such an effect on me. Now, I know I've been long-winded with this video, but I really wanted to emphasize just how brilliant this book is, and it is all wrapped up in an absolute beautiful set of pages by Daniel Acuña. This is a #1 recommend for me this week. I'm very excited to see if the book continues with these themes, and I hope it does, because it is an absolute hit straight out of the park. So those are my thoughts. Do let me know yours. I'd like to read your comments once the videos go up. I will see you hopefully in the next video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.